It will be 1,561 days, or 4 years, 3 months, and 8 days since Portman Road hosted Championship football. And on Saturday, guys, that run ends. We're here to talk all about it here on the Blue Monday podcast. Hello and welcome to the Blue Monday podcast discussing Ipswich Town up or down since 2015. I'm Richard Woodward and this is the Prematch Show brought to you in partnership with our friends at the Greyhound Pub in Ipswich. We're available every week on YouTube video and podcast audio. And tonight we are live, so we want to hear from you. But joining us, he's finally decided to make an appearance a week into the season. My good buddy Seb Brown. How are you, mate? Where were you last week? We didn't really talk too much about it. Do you want to tell the boys and girls where you were?
I'm good. I was in Florida. Very, very, very hot. Very nice. Ate far too much. Spent far too much. And yeah, I've got severe jet lag, etc. But it was a good breakaway. But I am now ready to go for the new season on both Portman Road and Blue Monday.
Lovely stuff. Lovely stuff. Well, there's lots of fun stuff to talk about. As you said, like Championship football is back. I want to talk to you about the Leeds game from 2019, the last one we had, which we'll come to in a second. But as you said, we were live, so we want to hear from you folks in the comments. Give us your thoughts on Stoke, on Bristol Rovers, on Sunderland, on Seb's attire for this evening. Do you want to get that out of the way nicely?
You want to get it out? I'm surprised you waited till a minute 46 seconds, to be fair. And I must say thank you for finding the worst material I've ever worn, because it's a hot, clammy night up here in Chester, and this thing is awful. So the camera won't obviously pan that out. Yeah, I've got the cup as well, because that was a requirement. So I've got the cup, and because I lost the stupid predictions feature last season, I am wearing this t-shirt with your face saying Rich is the ultimate score predictor genius 2022-2023. So well done. I'm yeah.
Well, I don't want to leave you on your own, so I've got it on as well.
That's a bit weird.
No, mate. I love lots of produce with my face on it. Nice ego, right. Isn't it?
Brilliant, yeah.
No, so well, one time only, folks.
I'm never wearing this again. It's horrible. So yeah, this will be thrown in the bin as soon as the pod finishes, I'm afraid. And next season, hopefully, we'll be sat here in 12 months' time as we're about to discuss our opening game against Man City, and hopefully you'll be wearing a shirt of similar design.
Well, we'll figure out. We'll see how we got on first week in your absence later on. But for now, well, if you want to give Seb your sympathies, or if you want to bid for the shirt, we might as well give it away. If you're going to
match worn, I can sign it if you want. Yeah, I can sign it.
Covered in Seb's Florida sweat. So yeah, there we go. Yep. Let's say hi to some folks in the chat. Bluey's here. Elkin to stay and do what Cam did last season. Happy with what I've seen from both in Austria and last night against Bristol Rovers. Evening to Lee. Evening to Charlie. Liking the look of the new pitch. Yeah, same here. Hello to Skip. Hi to Jules, Jonathan, Rob. Good day to Michael. Great to have you with us. Neil, first game in 13 years and just got in. Oh, you've been playing. Good luck with tomorrow's probably going to be worse, Neil, I suspect. Good luck getting out of bed in the morning. Evening to Baran. Good to have you with us. Tony's here. Elliot's here. Good to have you with us, folks. Where should we start, Seb? We're recording this Thursday night. We need to say hello to folks who listen after the fact. We do know you're out there. Jason in the Telegram group says that he listens in the gym. So run faster, Jason. Lift up those knees. Pump the. I don't know what you do.
Pump the eyes. Putting us to shame there, isn't he? When was the last time you went to a gym?
I walked past the gym in a hotel last week.
Yeah.
Not so much. And Matt's doing. We've got people who do park runs listening to this as well. So park runners, if you're like me and Seb and you're listening to this Saturday morning with a coffee in front of Sky Sports News, we appreciate you too. Should we start with Bristol Rovers, Seb? This time last year, we could have talked about this time last year in lots of different ways, haven't we, so far? Colchester United defeat player of the season, player of the year. Raheem Harper with the assist. No longer at Portman Road. And last night, an improvement because we're through to the second round of the Carabao Cup. Pretty comfortable it was too. Any thoughts or any recollections? Reading, do you want to give us your? You weren't at the game. Do you want to give us your thoughts on Reading in the next round, because it's a bit of a meh draw, isn't it?
It is meh, but equally it's a chance to get some more minutes into some of the squad players. I guess without the Papa Johns this year, we're going to have a fair few players, the likes of Aluko and Danasi and maybe Elkin Baggett if he hangs around, Greg Lee, George Edmondson. It's useful for them to get to know they've got a game coming up in the next couple of weeks or whatever it'll be. It's not an exciting one, but it gives us a real chance to get through. And then obviously the next round is where the big boys, the European clubs, will start to come into it, like the ones who are in the Champions League and the Europa League will come into it. So there's a chance of hopefully getting a sexy draw and getting a decent tie. So if we can get past Reading, which I think we probably will, it's a chance for open up. You were there last night. Who were the standout performances? What did you like about it? How's the new pitch? How's the blue AstroTurf? How's the sprinkler number? I saw you put that on on social media.
Ample sprinklers. Yeah, it looks really impressive. There's a really great video on Town TV. I know people are a bit confused with the Town TV situation. There is free content on there too, folks. You just need to register to access it. There's like a 15-minute video with our mate Jacob Henderson talking to Rich, the operations manager there. And, a lot of it is just lick of paint and a bit of TLC, I think was their phrase. The cobalt stand in particular looks like someone cares about it now. But the blue perimeter really makes the pitch, it makes it just finishes it off really neatly. It does look a little bit like the old White Hart Lane pitch to me, a little bit in the TV replays that I've seen. The new surface, the ball glides off it. Because they have 20 sprinklers on it, so the ball does fly. So that was something that Lee Evans was pinging his kind of crossfield balls and all that kind of stuff, and folk were not being able to control the balls as they went out of play. So we needed to get used to that. But generally, in terms of winners and losers from last night, obviously we all won because we won 2-0. I thought George Edmondson had a really solid return. Obviously, still coming back from injury. Not the best of pre-seasons, if we're honest. A few iffy moments. So he was solid last night. Elkin Baggett, we'll talk about him because we've got a few questions. I'll get your thoughts on a possible, where Elkin Baggett spends the first half of the season. But to me, last night, he put himself really front and centre in Kieran McKenna's mind, in my view, for whether we need this left centre back, this additional left centre back. So the back two were good. I thought Jack Taylor was good. Amari Hutchinson had good moments, probably tried a little bit too hard, or stuff didn't really come off that he was trying, but at least he had the endeavour. And it turns out that he's got a devilish corner on him as well. Seb whipping in the quick fire corners to the 6-yard box, which I love, in swinging. So yeah,
Waghorn-esque, is that how you describe them? Is it that kind of pace on the ball whipped in?
Yeah, I think that's a good shout.
Okay.
The trouble, they create danger, but no one really got on the end of them. But you'd imagine that if you're a hulking centre back like
Burgess,
or Burgess, you just need to get your way in front of the ball and it's going in, because it's so close into goal. In terms of players who maybe didn't come out with the best of reports, at least from my perspective, Harness had a bit of a hit and miss night. Again, trying really hard, but probably overplaying. He's got a tendency maybe to want an extra touch or to delay the pass when he should get it out of his feet, and was caught out a few times. And Freddie didn't really continue in a great vein after Sunderland. Obviously, the glaring, not the miss, wasn't it? It should have been a pass. And I think it was clearly playing on his mind, particularly in the first half. He was looking to make a pass rather than have a shot, even though he was in positions where he should have a shot. And didn't really impress last night. And Hurst came on and immediately kind of took the game by the scruff of the neck and got an assist as well. So we know that we're probably in the market for another forward. And I don't think, unlike Elkin Baggett in terms of the left centre back position, I don't think Freddie did anything to dissuade Kieran McKenna that we need another forward. So all in all, positive night in the main. Few question marks. We're into the next round. Clean sheet, 2 goals. I thought Bristol Rovers were really good, actually. Played attacking football. Grant Ward in the central midfield for them, which he was really good, actually. Really impressed there. It's ironic you move out of League One having dealt with teams who just want to sit in and make it a slog against you, and then You play them a season, a few months later in a different division, and suddenly, oh yeah, we'll play football against you. Never mind. So yeah, we kind of picked out a few bits and pieces, and Bluey kind of started the show with a thought on Elkan Baggett. What's your take on this, Sam? I think someone else has. Norman's said Elkan to go out on loan for me, playing well in pre-season friendly and against League One opponents doesn't mean he's ready for the Championship. We need a few upgrades to ensure we do well. What's your take?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all expected us by now to have signed maybe an experienced left-sided centre-half. We had the link with Craig Cathcart a couple of months ago. Obviously, McNally, who we'll come on and discuss when we talk about Stoke, ended up moving on from Burnley after heavy links with us. And I presume if one of those guys had come in, then Baggett would now be kind of, earning his trade at hopefully a League One level. He played for Gillingham, didn't he, for half the season? They got some investment in the January window, so he kind of comes back here and goes out to Cheltenham and didn't really feature at all. And loans are so crucial for somebody at that age, because you don't want a Corey and Darber at Salford kind of situation where they go and play 30-35 games and really learn their trade against some horrible old school centre forwards, who are going to pinch them and kick them and try the dark arts all game. And if you get a loan like when poor Tristan Nydam ended up going up to Scotland and barely featured, it can be a bit of a waste of time. I think until we sign an extra body, there you go, body tick on the first show of the season. Hey. He'll be remaining in the building. I think a bit like Cam Humphreys. Obviously, he's not part of the squad registration, which is useful, and we do need that cover at the moment. I think, given Edmondson's injury history. You say Edmondson played well last night, which is encouraging. Good to hear. I guess maybe not a coincidence he played on the right, which is his preferred position, but when Wolf is in the side, he's always gets shunted across to the left. So until we sign somebody, I expect him to hang around. If we do bring in somebody, then by all means, send him out to League One for half a season with the usual January recall option if it's not working out. But if he stays, I'll be perfectly happy. I've always been impressed with him. He's always so physical. He's a big guy, isn't he? And that left foot balance is nice. So yeah, if he hangs around, I've got no issues whatsoever. But if we bring a body in, then by all means, get him out on loan.
Get him on the grass, eh? Another person whose name keeps coming up in the chat. Let's do Rob Carl Edwards ? Injury or on his way? Wait a sec. Carl Edwards keeps coming up here. Stuart, big question. Where's Carl Edwards last night? He was actually sat, I think, on the bench. Last night
with the first teamers that were rested. Yeah.
Michael, what's happened to Edwards? Not even a sub last night. Other ones in there too. It seems really sad. It seems like he's around the squad. Yeah. We've not heard whether he's injured or not, but I just kind of feel like he's an impact player, so and the type of player that we don't have too many of.
I kind of figured with the new 9 sub rule, he would probably be on the bench most weeks, because he was last season. Even when we saw some rotation in the second half of last season with the bench players, he was pretty much always there, because he is a player who can do what potentially nobody else in the squad can do. He is a game changer. He can go left, he can go right. He's always got a trick. Okay, he doesn't produce the numbers. His numbers were better last year than the first season he was with us, but his numbers don't really necessarily back up the kind of performance we want. And he's a pretty easy one to move on, probably, because if you look at a highlight reel of him, or look at agents videos, he'll look incredible. So potentially there might be a move in the works there. I presume because he was fit and he wasn't playing last night, somebody didn't want him cup tied. If that's a loan or a permanent move, I would feel a little bit sad, like some of the comments are saying. He seems to be a great guy. We've seen the social media stuff. We saw the celebrations on the pitch at the end of last season, but we are a slick, well-run business now. We have to adhere to FFP rulings and limitations and squad spaces. So if it's an easy deal to do and we can recoup a bit of money, he was a free transfer. If we can recoup a bit of money for him, then maybe it's time for him to go and start playing football. He's not young anymore, is he? He's not a 20, 21-year-old. He's 24, I think, 25 years old. So it's probably important for him to go and play football pretty consistently. I would miss him. I like him. I've always liked him when he comes on the pitch. He's always positive. He always tries to do something positive when he's got on the ball. He's the king of the pre-assist, which I know isn't really a thing, but there were so many times last season he would make the final pass before the assist and stuff. So I think he would add value, but in Ashton we trust, in Kieran McKenna especially we trust, and if they feel it's right for him to move on, maybe for his sake as much as ours, then maybe it is time to have a parting of the ways.
Where does he go though? What is he, Championship or League One?
I think he's League One, isn't he?
Like
He
a
has to
top
be.
end, like a
Yeah,
Derby or something.
I would think so. Well, yeah, aside in and
Bolton.
around the playoffs, you could see, I don't know, who likes to play with attacking wide players. Yeah, Portsmouth, Peterborough have got some young players in those positions. They might want a bit of
Peterborough's a shout.
panache. Maybe they've got Mason Ephron Clark and Poker in those wide positions, but they might want a bit of extra. So maybe it is time for him to move on. I don't think he'd get a championship gig, given how he played in the Premier League for West Brom and they dispensed when they were in the Championship, and obviously he's not really done that much stuff for us last year. But I do like him. If he stays, no problem at all. Thanks, Anthony. Very kind of you.
He's not young anymore. Coming from Seb says, for those of you listening on podcast, I thought evening, Anthony. How are you doing?
I hope he sticks around. I do like him, but if he moves on, maybe it's best for him and for us.
Yep. Sad, but I think I agree with all of that. Let's move on, shall we? And let's talk about Saturday. I mentioned at the top that I'm just going to remind you that the last time we played Championship football at Portman Road was the 5th of May, 2019 against Leeds. Do you recall that one? That was an interesting afternoon, wasn't it?
I do, yeah. I mean, yeah, we were already down, obviously, from about a month previously, and it was a very topsy-turvy game, wasn't it? That sort of last-minute winner, Chambers sent off, Kemar Roof missing a penalty, and yeah, it was we were all kind of there was a banner along the north stand. Was it "We are a light that will never go out" or something? I seem to remember
Smith song, yeah.
Yeah, it was unfolded. And I think we were all kind of thinking, okay, we'll go and enjoy League One for a year and we'll go to some new grounds and we'll tick them off. And Lambert will get into the squad in pre-season and really kind of shake them up. And well, we all know how that panned out. But yeah, it was a topsy-turvy game at the end of a truly awful, awful season, wasn't it? Was that our 5th win, I think, of the season? Yeah, I think that was our 5th win. The Leeds keeper had a rush of blood at the end, and Colin Quaynor tapped home the last-minute winner. Yeah, Colin Quaynor. And yeah, it was.
Kemar Roof missed a penalty. Chambers got sent off. Yep. The Leeds fans had the whole of the upper tier of the cob. One of those weird days, wasn't it? But yeah, hopefully it will feel very different. I mean, we'd like a similar kind of outcome, wouldn't we? Result-wise, but it feels like the clubs are complete. The club of 2019 and the club of 2023 are poles apart.
Oh, it's unrecognisable. Yeah, in every single aspect, it's completely unrecognisable.
And the first opposition of the kind of, I don't want to say a new era, of the 2023, the class of 2023-24 is Stoke City, Seb. Overall, historically, similar to Sunderland, actually, almost identical kind of situations as Sunderland and Stoke. We've probably got a mixed record, head to head over the course of our history. They've got one more win than us overall in all the games we've played. So it's not as if it's a team that we've got much to fear about, but it's a team of definitely of transition as well, which we'll talk about. The recruitment has been massive. Definitely feels like a changing of the guard. Do you want to? We've always talk about where they are right now. Do you want to we've obviously been out of the Championship for a while. Stoke had been the parachute team, hadn't they? With a lot of spending power and hadn't really got anywhere. A lot of changing of managers as well. Nathan Jones, Michael O'Neill. I'm trying to remember others in there as well. But they've been, it probably feels quite similar to our experience in the Championship. Like you stay there forever. Remind us where they were last season and what happened.
It's been very underwhelming since their relegation. They were relegated in 2017, 2018. And I guess, being a year one parachute side with a bit of quality in the squad. I mean, the likes of, Joe Allen stayed until the summer of 2022 and Sam Clucas was still there until this summer. They had some kind of, some decent players they would have expected to bounce back. I remember they brought in Sam Vokes, who, given how Stoke played, was pretty much a given for what they wanted to do at that level. And they never, ever got going. It was really, really poor and really, really disappointing. Since they came down, they finished 16th, 15th, 14th, and last season 16th again. So wow. I think they've maybe threatened the playoffs a couple of times in kind of the January and completely fallen apart. And it's not worked well. They've had really severe FFP limitations, we'll come on to and discuss, and that cloud has kind of been lifted from them this summer with some of the business they did last January. They're obviously owned by the Coates family, who own Bet365. So from a backing point of view, they have a huge resource pool to call on, but FFP don't let them spend that money very freely until this summer. So a very, very underwhelming kind of time back in the Championship. As you say, they've chopped and changed managers in a way to try and find some sort of consistency and get back to the Premier League, and it simply hasn't worked out for them since they came down.
But Alex Neil, he's a decent enough manager who got some good pedigree at Championship level. Obviously, we talked about Sunderland last week. He left them partway through the season, didn't he? Or early in the last season, having got them back to the Championship. But yeah, it just feels like maybe slowly but surely he's stamping his impression on the squad and that recruitment. We'll talk about that shortly. Talk to us about the end in terms of numbers for you. Tyrese Campbell was their top scorer with 9 goals last season. Will Smallbone, who was on loan from Southampton, I think joined in January, was their top assist maker with 5. So the stats kind of suggest that it was a really, mediocre in the true sense of the word mediocre season for them. 16th, as you said, but stats didn't particularly suggest it was either an Alex Neil type team, which we know is quite attacking and possession based, but also, decent enough at Championship level, really. Anyone you want to pick out?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Alex Neil moves across from Sunderland. He takes Sunderland up, and towards the end of August, Michael O'Neill gets fired because I think Stoke were in the relegation zone, had a really, really poor start to last year. He comes in and, like you say, really struggled to kind of implement his ideas and his philosophies. And they had a decent run around March time, but apart from that, it was nothing to write home about. They actually ended the season really poorly. I think it was 4 defeats in the last 5 games. They managed to stay up, obviously, but the fans weren't impressed with him at all. Some of that is the limitations we've discussed with FFP, and some of it is just a kind of, his failure to kind of get the best out of the high earners who perhaps, given their salaries and given the fact they were there in the Premier League days, should have been performing better, but he really struggled. Obviously, we know him most from his time at Norwich, where, the 14-15 playoff season where we were several points clear with the whole mind the gap thing, and slowly but surely they managed to claw it back, and obviously across the 2 legs we lost them in the playoffs. He had a spell at Preston as well for 3-4 years, from I think 2017 to 2021, which was a bit underwhelming, and obviously Sunderland was where he kind of went there, galvanised them after they fired who was it Parkinson they fired? I can't remember who Sunderland fired, but he managed to get them across the line, and I guess he kind of saw Stoke as a better option in terms
Lee Johnson.
Thank you, Lee Johnson, of course. I guess maybe he was a better option in terms of, Stoke are very wealthy owners, and he must have seen them as a kind of, I'll have more control over all aspects of the club than I do at Sunderland, where you've got the Speakman, isn't it, the sporting director from Birmingham, who maybe has a bigger say over the transfer matters. And it's a big season for him because he's been backed with, what they've spent in the summer, and they got off to a good start last weekend, albeit against a weaker side in the division. And I don't think the fans or possibly the ownership would accept a 14th, 15th, 16th place finish this season after the backing he's had. If he's not in and around the playoffs, I would suggest maybe by the November window, the one Ben always talks about, the November international window. That's when most managers seem to kind of, be on thin ice. If he's not in and around the playoffs in that time, I would suggest maybe he'll be in a bit of trouble there.
We'll talk about results from Saturday and midweek in the Carabao Cup, but should we skip to the key arrivals? Because, it's double digits. That I was watching Ben's show with Sam Parker. They were talking about double digit numbers of people coming in, bodies, if you want to use a Sebism there. But there's been some really chunky fees in there, 3.5 million, 1.3 million, 500,000 in there. Some really good free signings, some good loans. Usually when we do this show and there's 11 signings, we kind of pick out the ones that are key, but really all of these players are really important, and all of them, I think, basically have featured, haven't they? Do you want to take us through them in kind of, in transfer fee order maybe, and call out some key names that people will be familiar with, or maybe new names that people won't be?
Yeah, and I think it's a really interesting blend as well of transfers. He's kind of got a mixture of impressive youngish talent from kind of Central Europe, as well as some of the more established players he's worked with in the past, so as well as a couple of quality Premier League loanees. So it's a real kind of, it's not your traditional just go out and sign players you used to play with all the time, or just focus on young Premier League players who can make a step up, or a step down, or League One's players that can make a step up. It's a wide-ranging net, which to me suggests a real change of strategy and kind of club vision, given what they've kind of done in the past. So I mean, the big arrivals, £3.5 million, €4 million on Ryan Mayi from the Hungarian side, Ferencváros. He's been brought in as a striker to score the goals. He can play wide as well, but he's been brought in to score the goals. Ben Pearson is a central midfielder. He'll add stability in that.
Some red and yellow cards,
and some cards. He's coming from Bournemouth. He was on loan last season for the second half from January to the summer, and they've made that deal permanent with 1.3 million to Bournemouth. Daniel Johnson's come in. He was at Preston for what felt like forever. Obviously, he worked with Alex Neil during his Preston time. He's coming on a free transfer.
Pearson as well.
Yes, and played in that number 10 position last weekend against Rotherham. Andre Vidigal looks really impressive. He's kind of an exciting left winger who's right-footed, so he likes to cut inside onto his right foot and get shots off. He scored twice. We'll discuss the opening game last weekend. He scored twice last weekend and again in midweek in the League Cup. So he's an exciting one.
Just quickly, the fee there for Vidigal, 400k.
Yeah.
From Mancimo
could be an absolute bargain.
We talked about this last week with Ben on the show that we are shopping in a market of 1.5 to 2 million, maybe £3 million players, and by Sunderland and Stoke, kind of proving that there's value in the foreign market. And it does feel a little bit frustrating, perhaps, that we're not pursuing that. I don't know if that's our range or whatever.
At this stage, I don't think we're quite at that level yet, are we? To quote Paul Cook, we didn't even have a recruitment room 2 years ago. So we have Sam Williams obviously in charge of recruitment, and I have no doubt they'll be working on things from further afield. But Stoke, having come down from the Premier League, will probably have a much wider range of scouting systems in place than we have at this present moment in time. So I'd suggest maybe give it a year, and we might find that's something we start to do.
Yeah, let's move on to the bit that in terms of things for people to look out for, and it definitely was something that I was picking up on the goals they conceded against Rotherham and West Brom. A lot of new defenders. That back four. I think it would be a back four. You really rely on an understanding and people knowing where to be. And Ender Stevens has come in. Michael Rose has come in. You've got Mark Travers on loan from Bournemouth, who's coming in nets. You've got Kiana Hueva from Wolves on loan at right back. That's a lot of pedigree signings there, pedigree chums, but these players don't know each other, so maybe there's an opportunity there for us, Seb.
Yeah, only Ben Wilmot was of the back five, the goalkeeper and the back four who started last weekend against Rotherham. Only Ben Wilmot was here last season, so it's kind of like you say, it's going to take time to build up that understanding. That said, the right back on loan from Wolves scored a lovely goal and
side foot volley off the bar, wasn't it?
Yeah, lovely finish. And McNally played in mid.
Poor.
It was poor, but great finish for him for a right back. McNally played in midweek in the Cup against West Brom to get some minutes into his legs. So you would assume
Luke McNally, who we were linked with,
who it suggests was pretty much down the line, wasn't it? It would suggest annoyingly, and obviously Stoke came in and pinched him. So that's a frustrating one. You'd assume he will come into the back four, probably at the expense of Michael Rose. Maybe I would suggest, because Ben Wilmot has kind of been there for a while and it's pretty established there. So yeah, I mean it's a new back four, back five experience with Stevens at Sheffield United and Travers at Bournemouth. They both know what it takes to get out of this league and get back to the Premier League. Captain is Lauren there. He's the captain in midfield alongside Pearson. So we've got to hope it's maybe a good time to play these guys before they really start to gel. Very good start last weekend, 4-1, but maybe it's a good time. Yeah, maybe it's a good time to play them before that back five gets really, really settled, I would suggest.
Yeah. Julia, we talked about the kind of changing of the guard there and a little bit of bringing the old band back together with the Preston guys, with Johnson and Pearson. You mentioned some of the names that have left. Aidan Flint isn't really a surprise, given that you'd spent last season or most of last season at Sheffield Wednesday. But there's some big names gone there, isn't there? And interesting places as well. And a departure on the day we record on Thursday, which is also significant.
So it's kind of the last clear out of the Premier League players. So Sam Clucas was one of the final ones who was on a big kind of Premier League contract. I think they signed him from Swansea, and
is that the most Welsh name ever?
Sam Clucas.
There you go. That's what we've got on the pod. The Welsh correspondent.
Yeah, he's moved on. I don't think he's got a club yet either. So he was on big money.
I don't think have.
Joe Allen, like I said, was there until last summer 2022. He moved on. He moved on. Morgan Fox went to QPR. Weird one was Nick Powell going to Stockport. He was Man United, incredibly highly rated. Went to Wigan,
didn't with him, weren't we?
We were under Jewel, I think, wasn't it?
When he
left Crewe.
Yeah, did he sign for Stoke or was it Wigan? It was Wigan, wasn't it?
Wigan he went to, yeah. Obviously United had him for a while, so they've kind of cleared out some of the old guard. And then day of recording Thursday, Jacob Brown, who played on the right of the three behind the central striker, has gone to Luton today for, they reckon, 1.5 to 2 million quid. He signed a 3-year deal there. He's coming from Barnsley, big fan favourite, a very, very hard-working kind of forward player who thankfully won't feature now on the weekend. And one name that stood out for me, they signed a guy called Wesley from Aston Villa, who at one time Villa paid 22 million quid for. Now the poor guy's I think he had 2 ACL injuries and spent some time out on loan. And he arrived at Villa with big money. But I mean, that just shows the level of some clubs. And I mean, Villa can spend 22 million quid as a relative punt in the Premier League, and the poor guy ends up at Stoke sort of 3 years down the line. So I think potentially with Brown having gone, I think Wesley might feature on Saturday.
Interesting. Yeah, well, I think that fee is more of an indictment about Villa, frankly. But talk to us about the games that have been, and we've alluded to the Rotherham game a few times. Do you want to talk us through that one? Obviously, first time out, Rotherham at home is probably the kind of game that you want to start the season with. This, with no disrespect to Rotherham.
Exactly, yeah. And they scored early, and Rotherham went down to 10 men in the second half. So it's a pretty nice kind of opening fixture for you, isn't it? It was a 4-1 weekend a 4-1 win last weekend at the Bet365 Stadium. Early goal, like I say, after 5 minutes, the right back we discussed, Hoyvier on loan from Wolves, scored a lovely right-footed volley to get them on their way. There were then 2 more in added time. This new world we live in of 6-7 minutes added on in the first half. Vidigal cut inside and kind of scored twice scored the third goal like that. The second goal was a knockdown from a set piece. So there are still some of the older Stoke traditions, shall we say, maybe in and around there. And then Cafu gets sent off for Rotherham midway through the second half. It's very, very comfortable. And Jacob Brown got the fourth before he left the club today. So the stats were overwhelmingly, as you would expect, in kind of Stoke's favour. 71% possession and 2 goals from second balls from set pieces suggests maybe some of the old Stoke we all know and we all love is still in there a little bit.
David Bergin, thank you as always, David. We always appreciate your support here on Blue Monday. So thank you so much for the super chat. If you want to do likewise from YouTube, you can do that. There's a super chat button towards the bottom near the live chat. But otherwise, please give us a thumbs up, nudge us up the arrow, and do subscribe if you're new to the channel as well. We're here every week, Thursday to talk about the game in advance, and Sunday to talk about the game once it's happened. So do join us. But a thumbs up would be very much appreciated. Thank you to Mark and to Angela on Facebook, who have given us a thumbs up over there. So hello to Facebook. We see you as well. But David, thank you as always for your support. Do you want to talk about, they beat West Brom, didn't they, in the cup?
Yeah, 2-1. It was a mixture of first teamers and squad players. So there was a bit of rotation. The likes of Wesley kind of came in, McNally came in. So again, that's a good result for them. One thing I noticed was the amount of shots they were kind of taking across these 2 games was noticeably a step up, I thought, on years gone by. I think it was 12 and 15 shots respectively. I think 12 on target in total across the 2 games, the game against Rotherham and the League Cup game against West Brom. So it's a side that likes to kind of get shots off.
Yeah. Let's talk about the kind of things that we can expect on Saturday. As we mentioned, a 4-2-3-1 is the likely formation, although there was a little bit of experimentation.
4-3-3 in the week, yeah. But that was more because of the squad players he wanted to give minutes to.
But I think we've mentioned a lot of the key players, haven't we? May and Vidigal and Pearson and whoever and Stevens, they're the likely starters. I think there's maybe a little bit of debate about the centre-back position, Seb, and the front line. Do you want to give us some thoughts on what might happen there?
Yeah, so obviously Jacob Brown, like we said, has moved on, so they'll need a new person to come in on that right-hand side. I think Wesley might become the focal point or might play in that right-hand position with Ryan May kind of starting in the other one. So one will start up front, one will start on the right, and they might interchange it between the 2 games. And at the back, I think it'll be Wilmot as one of the starters, being established and being there for a while. And I guess I don't know how much pre-season McNally has played. Is he fit enough to come in ahead of Rose? I'm not sure. If he's not after midweek, then it'll be Rose again alongside him with Stevens at left back and Hoyvier at right back.
The front line, there are some names that I want to lob in here just for interest. So Tyrese Campbell was the leading scorer last season, but he's out with an injury, and they don't really have a timetable on that. Another player who definitely fits the journeyman title, Dwight Gale. You can still find him.
Yeah,
he came back. He's returning from injury as well. He was on the bench against West Brom midweek. Probably too soon for him to start, but he's there, isn't he? So
bench option. Yeah. Do you remember the year? Was he at West Brom one year and scored an absolute bucket load of goals in this league? Didn't he get a last-minute winner against Norwich one night or something? I think in our relegation season that cheered us all up. Yeah, obviously he's very, very experienced. Been at Newcastle and a loan spell at West Brom, so very experienced at this level. But he's one of those kind of older, kind of changing of the guard type players. They might well have looked to move on, but I'd imagine he's on quite a decent level kind of contract there. So he'll be a bench option on the weekend. Yeah.
2 things to make people feel old, Seb. One is we talked about a rig at Sunderland last week. We've got Sidibe from Stoke, and not the one that people might remember as well. And we've got of the Wright Phillips. What's the word I'm looking for? The conveyor belt, I should say. It sounds really wrong, doesn't it? Another Wright Phillips is making an impact there as well. Do you want to give us some names and some talk? These guys probably won't feature, but interesting.
Yeah, so Sol Sadabi might feature. He's kind of been talked up very strongly. He's the son of Mamadi Sadabi, who was there from 2005 to 2013. He made
scored against us in that 3-2 game, I think. Do you remember that?
Did he?
Where we lost.
The one where we lose in the...
Possibly, yeah. I need to check that.
Yeah, so he's his 16-year-old son. He's had a good pre-season. Alex Neil's been kind of speaking very highly of him, and he might well be involved on the weekend, maybe more so now that Jacob Brown has kind of moved on. England youth midfielder. He's been there since he was 8 years old, so he's kind of done really well in pre-season and might well look to get to feature against us on the weekend. And DiMaggio Wright Phillips is the son of Sean Wright Phillips, and therefore the grandson of Ian Wright, just in case you all want to start to feel really, really old.
Yeah, we're doing a service here at Blue Monday, just to bring people back down to reality. Any final thoughts, Seb? Anything? We talked a little bit about the stats, haven't we? You mentioned the possession stats.
Yeah.
Have you noticed a little bit of a difference perhaps against lesser opposition against maybe the better opposition perhaps that might be relevant?
Obviously, it's very hard to tell, being game week 2 of the season, and their first game against Rotherham, who were reduced down to 10 men. There were still signs of the old Stoke there. For example, 12 fouls committed last weekend with 5 yellow cards issued against them was the joint worst offenders in the league last weekend. 36 accurate long balls against Rotherham was the highest in the league last weekend. So although they've brought in these new players, I think it's going to take a bit of time to transition them across from this kind of world of old Stoke, land of the giants under Michael O'Neill, where you just had Ryan Shawcross, Sam Vokes, huge players who were absolutely horrible to play against. I think there is still a slight element of that amongst them. However, the likes of Vidigal and maybe Wesley and Johnson in midfield kind of makes it more potentially looking to be slightly more expansive and looking to maybe change things slightly to how it's been for the last 5-6 years at this level, because obviously it's not worked for them. Yeah.
Should we talk about Ipswich then? If you've got any thoughts, we've had some questions. I think we'll cover possible changes from Wednesday in a second. But if you've got any thoughts or questions or opinions on Ipswich or Stoke, get them in now before we get to the predictions bit towards the end of the show.
Can I jump in? I have a question for you.
Oh, here we go.
The last time we played them was in February 2019, obviously our relegation season. Can you remember the score? And can you name the Ipswich lineup from that day?
Oh, the lineup's going to be a
tough
one.
Let's see how good you are. Go on. So the score. What's the score?
So this is the game in relegation season, just to be
the February of 2019.
So the last minute equaliser by Will Keane.
Yeah,
Mullet's in there.
Please Mullet. Yeah,
flash. There he is. Wow. So the team, I can't imagine.
I've got it here. Let's see.
I tried to put it out of my mind. Was Bart in goal at that point?
Yeah, tick.
Bart's in goal.
So defence.
It was Callum Elder at left back.
No.
Jonas.
Yes, he played centre back.
Okay.
Left centre back on the day. No, surprisingly, must have been injured maybe, or don't know.
I might need some. Oh, here we go. I do remember this though. Thank you, Horse Holler. Yeah, Blue Monday Live.
It was in the curve bar. Yeah, it was that night.
Wow. Yeah. Did Will Keane start? Or did he come off the bench? I think
he started in a front two. So the formation was a 4-4-2 with a diamond in midfield, according to the various websites I looked at today.
Well out of my memory. Was Andre Dezelle in that team?
No.
Quainer, was he in there?
Yes, he's the front. So Keane and Quainer are the front two. Knudsen was the left centre back. Bart in goal. So you need the right back, the left back, the other centre half.
I need some clues here. I put this team well out of my brain.
The right back made a big money move in the Premier League last January. To the Premier League, I should say.
Again,
James Bree went to Southampton. Yeah, probably got relegated again, obviously. Played for Shrewsbury. We used to say thought we had a higher ceiling as a centre back than maybe Shrewsbury. We had him on loan from Everton. Yeah, there you go. Left back was kind of ran a bit like a headless chicken and was part of the bomb squad. And Ken Lock, there you go.
Midfield like Rex. He had little.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We had a current Chelsea player at the base of our midfield. Yep. We played a diamond. So to the left was probably one of the most disappointing and underwhelming signings I think we've made in the last 10 years. No, it wasn't Douglas Neal. No, Neil said Jonathan Douglas. It was John Nolan.
Okay.
Teddy Bishop in the other side of the diamond midfield. Alan Judge was the player in behind the front two.
Oh, that's a terrible team, isn't it?
It really is, isn't it?
Oh.
Yeah.
I would. It's not. We need someone like we need to get Football Manager to simulate the current team versus that team. It would be a bloodbath, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be.
And who's in charge? Is Lambert in charge at that point?
Yeah,
Yeah, he
Lambert.
is.
Yeah, we had this weird run. We drew 1-1 for a load of games, didn't we? And it was one of those weird runs. And their goal was a horrible mix-up between Knudsen and Bart.
Shower says Colin. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. When you reel off those names, it's no surprise we went down.
And a lot of players there that you kind of hoped would do better, like Judge never, always flattered to see, didn't he? And wow, yeah, James Bree was a decent loan signing, wasn't he? I forgot that he was there at that time, but yeah, Will Keane, what might have been a mullet. There you go. And the Blue Monday Live event was that night as well. I had to rearrange from the West Brom game that was on Sky. So, and keep your eyes peeled. We're hoping to repeat the live event at some point before the end of the year. So keep a lookout for that. Anywhere where Flynn Downs, was he involved? FBL
might have been on the bench. I didn't really look. I saw Scoos came off the bench. NCR came off the bench, but
NCR. It gets better.
He came on for the corner. He came on literally 30 seconds before we scored the equaliser by Will Keane. So they must have put him on to throw him up at the last minute.
Mullet was stalking Will Keane and it paid off. I assume that's.
Oh, it was weird. Yeah, I was at Preston with Mullet and Will Keane played, and it got weird.
Got his binoculars out. Anyway, let's talk about Ipswich. We've got a few questions, but keep them coming. If you've got any thoughts about Stoke or history against Stoke or Sergei Baltacha, really great chat going on about Sergei Baltacha. Let us put them in the comments, and we'll come to those in a second. But I guess the key questions. Let me ask you some questions, Seb, for this bit. Clark in for Donasian and Hladkin for Slicker. Is that it?
Well, yes, in terms of the going back to the Sunderland lineup, it'll be the same one. It'll be that with Clark coming in. I assume he came on last night, didn't he? Clark got some minutes under his belt, and he'll have to be on it because Vidigal from the left is a big threat. So Clark will have to be really on it. But I like Donasian. I think he's a really useful squad player. I think his resurrection of his Ipswich Town career has been phenomenal. But we do see a big drop off, don't we, when Clark isn't in the side? Clark and Burns towards that back end of last season were absolutely tearing it out week in, week out. So for me, he comes straight back in. And Hladky, after a dodgy start away at Sunderland, kind of makes that huge save in the last minute, and surely that will have done his confidence the absolute world of good.
I think there's some mitigating circumstances with Hladky's early moments. I don't. The first one with Wolfenden, I think Wolfenden is a little bit culpable in that situation as well, by the way. But I think we were just caught out by Sunderland, weren't we? We were talking about this on the Naked
potentially
Show with me and DD were on there last night, or on Wednesday night, I should say. So do check out the Naked Football Show, by the way. We've linked on our Twitter with Graham Blackburn. But we did talk about them. But yeah, Hladky seems like that's a no-brainer decision, isn't it? Got Paul's asked us, Jackson more of a role this week? ? I guess that was the debate about whether Hutchinson or Jackson comes on. I think probably people favoured the idea of Jackson more. I don't know if that's in hindsight or not, but thoughts on who might make a cameo?
Well, Jackson was going to come on, wasn't he, against Sunderland? But for whatever reason, he kind of changed it around. And that searing pace can be absolutely crucial. We know that the Stoke fullbacks will kind of look to push on. They're two attacking fullbacks they've brought in now in Edna Stevens and in Hoyver. So they will look to get forward. And if the game is stretched in the last 20 minutes, then you want Jackson's pace potentially to get in behind those players. So for me, a bench option. But I think he'll certainly look to come off the bench if it's not really working with Burns, let's say, after 65, 70 minutes. Jack Taylor obviously scored last night. I presume Luongo and Morsey midfield is pretty much first choice. He might have to wait a little bit longer, but did he do some good things for you last night?
Yeah, looked tidy, took the goal well, kind of Tommy Miller-esque run into the box, a few good passes, quite combative every now and then as well. So yeah, he needs time, doesn't he? And familiarity, as we talked about. But Luongo for me was excellent. Morsey got Sky Man of the match. I thought Luongo was probably up there and more effective, obviously involved in the second goal. But yeah, I'd be surprised if there's anything other than that. And we've got a question here from Neil. Will we name a more attacking bench at home than away? You just wonder, with 9 substitutes these days, is it possible to name an attacking or a defensive?
Well, we saw it last season, didn't we? Donasian was often the only defender on the bench, given his versatility. The fact he can cover any position across the back four kind of made sure that we could front load that bench with game changers and attacking options. In a 9-person bench, I don't really think it makes that much difference. You'll always have probably Donasian and presumably Edmondson, and then you've covered all your bases for the centre back and the wide positions. So therefore, you can still have 6 high quality attacking players if you want to. So I think the 9 sub rule will simply make it so that we have proper defensive cover and we still have plenty of options going forward.
Yeah, I agree with that. We'll come to your questions in a sec. Let's do a few bits and pieces of housekeeping. As always, we're brought to you in partnership with the Greyhound, who head there ahead of the game on Saturday. A few of the Blue Monday team will be in attendance as well, so it'd be great to see you out there. It'll be very busy as well, I'm sure. So do join us there and check out the Greyhound's new menu in support of the ITFC Foundation as well. The Foundation Burger with a pound donation going to that, and certain choices being renamed about certain players as well. So the Greyhound doing fantastic things as always, and we're really proud to be in partnership with them yet again this season. Do if you're unable to make the game in person, match day chat will be open on our Telegram group. Get involved in that. Always a big buzz, and certainly a home game will be even more so. So do get involved in the Telegram group. A couple of weeks on us, and then a subscription after that. And the flagship show, as we mentioned earlier as well, will be back on Sunday evening. Ben, Dave, and Joe back in at the normal time of 8 p.m. to talk about the Stoke game after the fact. We want to get plenty of your comments in there as well and questions. So do join the guys live 8 p.m. on our YouTube channel and then on podcast shortly after that. And as always, if you've enjoyed what you've listened or heard, do give us a thumbs up, do subscribe, and leave a review. Why not? We do like the podcast reviews, especially the ones that talk about Partridge or The Office. Louis, question for you, Seb. Is a new left centre back, right winger, and a striker realistic? I guess that's in terms of the quantity rather than the specific positions. Three signings realistic?
I think we'd see a right winger who can also maybe cover the centre forward position as maybe a kind of a 2-in-1 kind of arrival. I'd expect a couple more arrivals. But what are we now? August the 10th. So we've got 3 weeks left until the window slams shut, and you can then rename the Telegram group. I know how much I only did it for you because I know how much you absolutely hate it. So I think we'll see another couple of arrivals. I still think a centre half will potentially come in. Left-footed would be great, but they are an absolute rarity, aren't they? And to be fair, Burgess, by all accounts, I didn't watch Sunderland because I was away in the States, but Burgess was an absolute rock, wasn't he? An absolute colossus in the air, and he kind of provides the flick on for the opening goal for Broadhead. So, yeah, I mean, it's less of an urgency, I think, than maybe it was at the start of the season now that Edmondson's fit and he had a decent run out last night against Bristol. And I still think a striker might come in who can also play. Think of a Tyrese John-Jules, can play the number 9, can play slightly deeper in the wide positions. I think a utility player like that is more likely.
Will it be Tyrese John-Jules himself?
Well, it's strange, isn't it? It's all gone very, very quiet. He was on the pitch, the celebrations after Exeter, and by all accounts, if they could have done it in January, they would have done. I guess the issue it's 2 serious injuries in 2 successive years with, his loan at Sheffield Wednesday a couple of years ago and us last year that's ruled him out for the second half of the season, and that must cast doubts over his fitness. He's not gone anywhere. I don't think he went on Arsenal's pre-season tour in the States, did he? So he's certainly available, but for whatever reason, maybe he'll be, if we get to, the 28th, 29th of August and nobody's come in, maybe it's when we go and put a cheeky bid in to try and get on loan again for the rest of the season.
Cheeky bid. Norman is getting impatient. I think all of us are. When will we make our next signing, he asks?
Well, as Joe said on the show, I think it was Joe last week, didn't he? There's always that lull. You get that rise before the season starts. Then it goes quiet as the Premier League kind of kicks off, and it goes crazy again with the last week of the window. So we might have to be a little bit patient. The Premier League starts this weekend. I guess once the first couple of rounds of that are out of the way, the squads will settle down with their transfers, and that might then mean that some of the fringe players start to move out on loan. So I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see anybody now until just before maybe the Leeds game towards the bank holiday weekend.
Yeah, I think we might need to temper our expectations.
I think so, yeah. But equally, the way the club is run these days, we might suddenly get an announcement out of the blue. So yeah, it's good, isn't it, sometimes? So yeah, let's be optimistic, but yeah, I think we might have to wait a couple of weeks yet.
Rob suggesting Liam Kitching linked with Coventry in a £2.5 million bid.
Barnsley guy, isn't he? From Barnsley?
Is he?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think that's him. Yeah,
fits the mold. But if Coventry bid, we're probably too late.
Yeah, I think so. And 2.5 million is a lot for. I know we are very heavily backed, but that's a decent chunk of change to spend on a relative unknown, I would suggest.
Yeah. Neil asks, has Taylor got an Audi TT? I don't know. We'll find out when Dave gets a lift off him at some point. Joe, has George Edmondson's time at Ipswich come to an end? Can't see him playing much. I mean, the cup run is really helpful for the likes of Edmondson. It's another tough kind of emotional type consideration along with Carl Edwards, isn't it, with Edmondson? Because we all love him, and he's been really unfortunate with injuries as well.
He has. I think it's a big season for him because 2 years on the bounce, he's had a bad injury, a bit like Lee Evans, a bit like Tyrese John-Jules. He's had a big injury that's ruled him out of the second half of the season. I mean, when McKenna first took over, him and Wolfenden were imperious at the back, and for a lot of last season, we kind of expected him to be the first choice alongside Wolfie until Burgess came in and really made that position his own. I think it's a big year for him. He certainly won't be going anywhere whilst the numbers are what they are. I guess if a more established kind of player comes into the back line, then you keep Elkan Baggett in the building for the season, and maybe he does look to move on. But he, having signed from Rangers, I think he'll be on a decent contract, probably with a decent promotion kind of wage rise in there. So he won't be that easy to move on. And as a squad player, whilst we're in the cup, happy days, keep him around. And you never know in football when somebody's going to be called upon.
Can you confirm for me if you're not on the grass, are you in the building?
Yeah, that's the. I'll do a hierarchy. Do you remember they used to have the Ben and Dave had the penalty? Seen it given, Stonewall, etc. I'll do a hierarchy of player availability for you.
Yeah,
in and around the squad, on the grass. Yeah, okay. I'll do a hierarchy, and we'll get it framed on the wall here somewhere for you.
Anything to skip? I could say this one if you want. Do you think the last night's highlights even more how much we need another striker? Seems like a big drop off from George Hurst to Freddie Ladapo. I wonder whether Freddie Ladapo is one of these players that has it's a real slow starter, because he definitely built into the season, didn't he?
Yeah.
I don't know whether that was familiarity, fitness, or what have you, or mindset, but he obviously got better as the season wore on. I think there's a few players who possibly have reached their ceiling, and Sunderland really, stern test early on the season kind of probably is the kind of test that you want to see whether the players sink or swim. And, Freddie's certainly a good squad player at the moment, but I think I tend to agree with Skip, unfortunately, as much as he's been a real, really important part of the team last season, and he can still prove a point, if he scores a hat-trick against Reading in the next round.
Yeah,
I do think, I think all of us, the consensus is we need another forward, and I don't think Freddie, as I said, has really changed that thinking unfortunately, with what we saw on Wednesday night. Rob, thoughts on the new added time, Seb? Might need to catch a later train on Saturday the way things are going.
Yeah, like I say, Stoke took advantage and scored twice in late added. Go on.
Just quickly, we had 1 minute of added time in the first half last night, and only 5 minutes in the second half. So
yeah, but no one cares. Teams no one's going to focus on that. It's the league program where they'll really ramp it up. Yeah, we're gonna have to get used to it, I think. I mean, I guess it will settle down maybe after a few weeks, into the season, but. Yeah, I mean, players are going to have to, like Morsey said after Sunday's game, it's no longer a 90-minute game. It was 103 minutes at the weekend, and that's going to be really telling for players' fitness and mentality and concentrations. And yeah, mentally, players are now going to be really switched on because, Sunderland pulled their goal back, and normally there's, 20, 18, 50 minutes left to go. Suddenly it's 25, 30 minutes. So it's going to have to require a real kind of shift in mindset and mentality from players to realise this is now going to be a really long game until it starts to settle down. I think it will. I'd be surprised if we were sat here in November.
Really big, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. Look at the World Cup when it started. The Qatar World Cup. There was so much injury time added on, and slowly but surely, it started to kind of come down a little bit. So I'd be surprised if we were sat here, let's say in November, and we are still talking about 13, 12, 11 minutes of added time. I think it will naturally equalise to kind of 7, 8 minutes, like it was last season, really.
But I do wish, anyone who jumps on the last train out of Ipswich in a Tuesday night game, you are going to miss some minutes, unfortunately, by the look of it. So a couple of quick ones for you, Seb, kind of yes or no's, or maybe in 10 words or less. Skip, do you think we'll see Taylor playing the left attacking mid-roll instead of Harness?
Well, I guess Harness is the understudy to Broadhead, but Chaplin's played there as well, hasn't he? Chaplin played against Peterborough last year and scored a couple of goals cutting in from that left-hand side. So I think potentially maybe we might see him more advanced in a number 10 role than the left kind of attacking midfield role. But McKenna spoke about he wants to get him on the end of things in the box. So certainly expect him to be higher up than sitting deeper alongside Morsey.
And Louis, again, we'll need to ship out a couple if we're to bring in 3. Is this likely to be Edwards? Just on the first point, do you think we need to, I guess, in terms of a squad balance, you don't want to have players who are unregistered hanging around.
No.
But I don't think budget-wise we'd need to do that, do we?
I don't think we do now, do we? Because of the various deals we've done with the likes of Piggott and stuff moving on. So I haven't looked, I can't remember off the top of my head how many free squad spaces we have. I guess for Harmony, like you say, you don't want too many kind of in the building. There you go. There's one of your ticks, who aren't going to feature. But yeah, I mean, if we're going to bring in another 2, I would say certainly at least 1 would move out to kind of maintain that balance a little bit.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of debate in the chat about getting a striker who can play centre back. Mentions of Ian Marshall and Richard Naylor.
Naylor, yeah.
Yeah, those are the days, eh? Finally, Elliot, before we go do some predictions, do you think Cam Humphreys will play a role in the league for us this season? And is a loan in League One bad for his development, given he's quite lightweight? He got stuck in a little bit last night. Didn't really have a huge amount of time to do much, but give us your quick take on that one, Seb.
Again, loans can be so varied depending if you're going to play or not. I really like Humphreys. I think it's a bit unfair to call him lightweight. I mean, we were at Port Vale away. He was getting kicked left, right, and centre, and he kind of came back into the game really well and gave back as good as he's got. He's versatile. He can cover kind of left wing back if he had to, central midfield, slightly more attacking. And will he learn more from 6 months of training with the first team and McKenna than he would playing maybe 10 games for a League One side? I would suggest he would, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good questions. We'll come back to more of those towards the end. If you've got anything else that any burning issues, what's the burning issue? But for now, let's, as I raise my glass to you, Seb, my cup to you, the best feature on the pre-match show. Here we go. How do you think people got on last week, Seb?
I'll be honest, I watched the show, but I haven't actually checked back on the results. I assume you won, and therefore the contributor is starting at... Well, it was two hosts last week, so who was who? Who's defined as the... Oh, right. Okay,
no, I'm the host.
Right, okay. Yeah, I assume... Well, there you go. So what were the scores? Go on, put me out of my misery.
9-8-8. 9. I won by 1 point, Seb.
Brilliant. So I'm already starting from a position further back, just like last year.
Yeah, you are
penalised for taking holiday.
Well, I might take a holiday at some point as well, and then you're relying on Ben slipping up. But he did all right. 8 points is okay.
Yeah, he's done all right, to be fair. Yeah, he's done okay.
Ed did all right as well on his debut, 8 points for him. But yeah, a winning start for me. Let's see how we get on this week. Let's if any games there jump out. I mean, Coventry Borough, kind of battle of last season's playoff teams. Cardiff QPR basement battle, isn't it? Huddersfield Leicester's a bit of a fearsome one for Huddersfield. Otherwise, yeah, Norwich at Southampton, Watford, Plymouth, some interesting games there, but none really jump out. Any ones that you want to single out there, Seb, and talk about your prediction?
Cardiff QPR, like you said, has the hallmarks for me of a relegation. You can't call it a 6-pointer on game week 2, but they're two sides that, our show with Gab, go and check that out for the 1-24. We kind of predicted them both to be down there, and that feels like it's a big game already, with Ainsworth already talking about, survival after they were battered 4-0 last week by Watford. So that feels crucial for Ainsworth to get something from there. And obviously we've then got them next weekend. So that could be a really interesting one. And also Sheffield Wednesday as well. They've got Hull, haven't they? I think. Yeah, that again to me potentially suggests that another big club, Wednesday, who have had a pretty diabolical close season, that could be a big game for them as well. And obviously, hopefully, Russell Martin will school Norwich in keeping the ball for 76% of the game, and hopefully he'll score a goal or two to bring them down, because that was really irritating last weekend. I was in various queues throughout various theme parks following the Saturday kickoffs, and when Norwich won it in the last minute, whatever it was, that was really irritating.
Always do that.
Yeah, I know.
We've predicted the same scores for Cardiff QPR, 2-0, as has Ed in the Telegram group, and 1-0 wins for Hull as well. Ed's also gone for a single goal victory for Hull over Sheffield Wednesday. We all think Southampton will beat Norwich. I think that might be a little bit of wishful thinking, perhaps.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Give us your predictions for Ipswich Stoke right now. We'll come to those in a second, but let's chat about what we are going for. And we're all going for narrow victories.
So you've gone for the clean sheet. That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I've having watched the Stoke goals from last week, I'm thinking that you might have the right score there. 2-1 might be the right score, and Ed's gone for that as well. They appear to want to try stuff, don't they, from range, and there's set piece danger as well there, which is going to be pretty fearsome. But never know. But we're all going for a positive home return to Championship football. I mean, we need to be careful to give respect to Stoke, who had a really good start to the season and obviously won midweek. So both teams off the back of 100% records in all comps.
Yeah, and it's worth pointing out as well, we haven't actually beaten them since 2004. The last time we beat them was in December 2000. The season we finished third and lose to West Ham and the team gets broken up. We beat them. I think it was a goal from Shefki Kuchi in the first half. So whilst we're all predicting kind of narrow wins in a hard-fought game, our recent record against them isn't that amazing. So it could be a tough one, but I'm confident of a narrow victory to build upon our impressive start to the season.
It would be good, wouldn't it? Momentum building. All
Yeah,
that
and
kind of
Portman Road
stuff.
full, and all that kind
It'd
of
be
stuff.
great. Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, big atmosphere as well. Let's go to your predictions. Colin's going for a 2-1, and then David's going for a 2-1 last season.
David, come on, mate, be positive.
You might be being realistic. Well, look, we won't know until next week. Charlie also going for a 1-0. Jules takes a scrappy 1-0. Neil, I could never predict a loss. Well, it used to work quite well in accumulators, Neil, when Lambert was in charge. Colin's predicting kind of to thump QPR. I just feel like QPR onto a bit of a hiding to nothing there. Skip going for a 2-0 at Fortress Portman Road, as is Julian. Neil, Norwich lose by 5. More wishful thinking there. Mullet, as always, I think he's making the trip down. 4-0 Town win. There we go. Rob, 1-0 hard-earned. That wouldn't surprise me, Seb. 1-0 as Rob's predicting there.
Yeah, I could see a 1-0 with us scoring first and being, Portman Road rocking and then potentially claw back in the second half. I did have 1-1 down as my original scoreline and decided to change it to be positive.
You'll regret that now. Rob might be looking very smug at full time. Colin also predicting a Norwich defeat 3-1 there. Bluey 2-0. Saj going for a 3-0. Elliot with a 3-1. Robert from Croatia, evening. That's fine. You can scroll back and rewatch it. Robert, he's going for a 2-0 win. Michael's going for a 3-2 comeback win with the final goal off the bar from a long range.
Scenes, as the kids say, limbs would be the North Stand lower.
And we'll end where we've got a 1-0 Taylor equaliser off the bench. FBL track to 3-1 Stoke. Alex Nielsen 4-0 Mariner Walk, Brazil Gates. And we'll end with, which seems quite fitting, Horseholler, a 5-1 Town, Baltacha first goal scorer. Thank you, everyone, for your predictions. We'll see how we get on next week. Thank you, everyone. If you've made it all the way through, we're an hour in. Prolific stuff. Thank you, everyone who's got involved in the chat. Insights on transfers on Stoke. Don't forget, as we say, to head to the Greyhound on Saturday. We'll see a lot of you there. Head to the Telegram group, Blue Monday, ITFC.co.uk is our website. Everything is linked there. Do join us for the Flagship Show on Sunday to chat about the game after the fact. We'll be back next week, Seb, for QPR, I assume. And thank you, everyone, for your contributions. I'll go through a few more predictions if people want to keep posting them. But any last thoughts from you, Seb? We'll let you do your... Do I need to sign off, by the way? Is it me still?
You had the winning run, didn't you, last season? Yeah, so it has to stay with you until... Just like I've bought the new orange away kit, I can't wear that. I have to keep wearing the black Ed Sheeran third kit until the spell is broken. So you will have to do the sign off. I'll say thank you to everybody for watching. Thank you to you, Rich, for hosting and for your work on the script and stuff this week. Look forward to next week against QPR. We can do it all over again, and you will take us out because you currently have the winning mantra.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Great stuff in the chat. We'll see you soon. We'll see you next week, same time, 8 o'clock Thursday. We're going live, Seb, next week. We'll figure that out.
Let's do it. Yeah,
let's do it live. We'll do it live. Thanks, everyone, for joining. Hopefully, see a good number of you at the Greyhound. And come on, you Blues.